Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Edgar Wright's The World's End in 2013. Another Edgar Wright review, and it's been a while yet again since I've done my last Edgar Wright review, and it's not been planned like that. I really wanted to do them all within 2 weeks, but yeah, just happens, and basically here we are with one of the last ones to review, and it's the last film in the Cornetto trilogy, and yes, The World's End 2013, and it came a bit, there was a kind of a gap between, of course, Hot Fuzz and this, because Scott Pilgrim came about as well in between that. And yeah, basically I've maybe mentioned, maybe hinted at my overall kind of thoughts on this, or at least compared to the rest of the Edgar Wright films, before a couple of the reviews that I've done. And yeah, basically as well, it's written by Edgar Wright once again and Simon Pegg. And yeah, basically these five friends, played by Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Paddy Considine, Martin Freeman, and Eddie Marsan, basically reunite very early on, many years after their youth, and they want to go on this pub crawl, the Golden Mile, basically around these 12 pubs in Newton Haven, which is their hometown, and because apparently they didn't finish it, originally when they were, in their youth and kind of adults, young adults, you could say, and teenagers. And then, yeah, basically, Simon Pegg, who plays Gary King, main character of the film, basically gets them all together and says, we just do it one last time and actually complete it this time. And yeah, it kind of deals with, all this kind of stuff, reuniting with past friends and the kind of nostalgia it plays into as well. And of course, with a twist, this film, of course, kind of clues in the name as well. The World's End. It's also the name of one of the pubs, that they end up at. They try to. It's the last pub in the pub crawl kind of thing. But of course, it has got, I kind of mean as well. It is an alien invasion, eventually as well. Now this kind of happens. It kind of starts appearing. You could say halfway through, but it's really after the, around the hour mark that it really starts escalating in the appearances of, these kind of the blanks that are in the film, and basically, yeah, the blanks that are kind of these robots that are used by these aliens. And, Pierce Brosnan, is kind of quite high up in all this kind of hierarchy, and he's in the film as well, which kind of keeps up with another Bond actor, being Edgar Wright. Of course, we had Timothy Dalton in Hot Fuzz, which worked amazingly well, but in this, not really, not so much. And yeah, basically, when I saw this, I first saw this shortly after it came out, and I knew, of course, who Edgar Wright was. At that point, I had loved Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and I had never seen at that point Scott Pilgrim. But I wanted to see that, and yeah, I watched The World's End and was very, very disappointed. And it's not a bad film. It wasn't a bad film, I didn't think, and it's still not a bad film at all. I actually think it's a good film. But it's just compared to the other two, and this is Edgar Wright, we're talking about, and there's Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, as well, Pierce Brosnan's appearance just wasn't very good at all. And yeah, basically, I was very, very disappointed, and I didn't really know what to think of it too much, but I kind of called it an average film back then. That was many years ago. Now I watched it again, this year, 2018, sorry, beginning of the year, and basically, yeah, I think it was January, and it was better than I remembered it being, but still, I've had some kind of sour taste, and it's because of the ending parts, really, but really it's just in comparison with a lot of his other works, just not not for me, up to scratch, really. To call this an Edgar Wright film, it just doesn't really fit, in that sense, and I think it's a good film, but, if you've seen my reviews of all the other Edgar Wright films, they're all the ones I've reviewed, 90 at least percent. In fact, I gave Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz full marks, and Scott Pilgrim was not far off being a 10 out of 10. So yeah, basically, this one is way below that. But yeah, this time I think, judging the film overall, and actually it was a bit better than I remembered, on a third viewing, and just not letting some of the ending parts kind of taint the rest of the film, my enjoyment of it. I think it is a good film, but it is disappointing by Edgar Wright standards. Now, the good stuff is basically, you've got this opening, which is kind of okay. It's got some annoying moments, kind of a bit of modern humour going on there. Bad modern humour, the kind of the pictures you see and everything of them when they're getting drunk and stuff. In this film, when I first heard about it, I didn't really get intrigued too much. It's about these friends going on a pub crawl, and then there's an alien invasion. It really doesn't appeal to me, on paper at all. It really is something I would probably not want to see. But Edgar Wright, he usually elevates different things, that otherwise would be not too great, sounding great. And yeah, basically you've got this prologue, and yeah, some of it, is quite annoying and stupid, but other, it's quite nice to see, and then it links it in nicely. And you see, these characters in their everyday lives, what jobs they have and stuff. And of course, Gary King is the one that really holds onto the nostalgia of it all and that kind of thing. But as well, get out of the way. This is definitely Simon Pegg's worst performance that I've seen from him. He doesn't play the usual character that he plays, or kind of personality, you could say. He doesn't always play that, but yeah, this one he's very, very over the top. He's very much trying to be funny, and he is funny in the film, but he gets a lot better actually. As the film gets worse, slowly gets worse a little bit. He actually gets better, which is surprising, but it's just a bit off-putting at times. Some of the stuff he's trying to do, it just doesn't quite work for me, and it just the rest of the cast early on are more kind of grounded, kind of the humour is a bit more restrained and kind of hold back a little bit. Where Simon Pegg does go over the top massively at times, and there's a couple of instances where it is just a bit too much and it is a bit kind of cringy. It just doesn't work for me. And basically though, he's the one that gets it all together, and they go on this pub crawl. But it's just at this point until the hour mark really is when the film is very good, actually, because Edgar Wright, it has some flaws definitely, and it's not the script, the kind of puzzle-like intricate script that Edgar Wright and Pegg would kind of do the other two before this of the Cornetto trilogy. It's not that, and it's not anything groundbreaking like they were. But it is very good. The humour mostly does work. The chemistry between these 5 characters in particular is really good. Some of the situations are just hilarious. And when the cop comes and it stops him for speeding and stuff, and then he puts it on Pete's tab, and he uses his license and everything and stuff. And basically, the bits, some of the first pubs that they go into, basically, it's very well done. The editing's there, the kind of editing for comedy effect, the pints and everything, and then Andy's getting a glass of water, that's really funny and stuff, and just the kind of the grounded nature of the comedy. Another hilarious moment was when Martin Freeman's character of Oliver, pretended. He basically spoke on the hands-free, and you were thinking he was speaking to Simon Pegg, basically, and he wasn't. And that scene was hilarious. There's some really good moments here, and overall it was really solid script. At times really good, and the performances mostly were very good. Paddy Considine, he's a great actor, great director as well. Nick Frost, is a legend. And it all just kind of worked. Simon Pegg, at times, as I say, he went over the top a little bit, but just kind of the cleverness of some of the, moments and stuff, and had a really warm feel to it actually as well. It had a lot of heart. It's kind of at times, it's kind of yes, it is a bit annoying at times, ever so slightly with the kind of alcohol-related stuff. But really, for the most part, it's a one of them ones that is made with care and actually sincerity, and it's kind of making points that there isn't everything, and kind of focusing much more on the characters, and the humanity of it, while also being not a comedy that slips into a lot of the modern traits mostly. And we'll talk about the second, the kind of second half in a bit, but yeah, I was really liking this. It has loads of warmth, and I kind of really liked this the second time I watched it as well. Just when we get to the later parts, I saw it a bit differently to what I see it now. But basically, yeah, very good stuff, very funny. Kind of goes for some emotional stuff here and there, but that mostly it works fine, but it doesn't elevate. But yeah, it's really well made kind of comedy. Up until these parts, and really, I think the direction was really good. The cinematography, the editing once again on point. Not anything wow like from Hot Fuzz, Shaun Dead, and really any of these other films I've seen. But yeah, basically, once we get to the parts where the blanks come into it, This is when the film starts to take a dip, and the kind of blanks that come into it, they're just it's not kind of. I don't think it's necessary really. I think this film really for me would have worked, even better if it just stayed to this kind of normal kind of comedy, film with the kind of yes, sometimes wacky moments and stuff. But I think the fact when they put the whole kind of end of the world in there kind of thing, with the aliens, the blanks, the robots, and all this kind of stuff. I think this is when it starts to really take a decline. It's not bad. It does have one or two moments where I didn't care for at all though, towards the end. But overall, it's just not as compelling, anywhere near as compelling. It has more flaws. It doesn't kind of focus as much on the character development and the kind of subtle at times. Just really well timed comedy. Through dialogue, and through situations and everything, and the characters together. This is when the film's at its best. And kind of Rosamund Pike is in the film as well. As sister of Oliver, and basically there's a love triangle that goes on there as well. It's kind of teased, and it was all just really good. But once the film starts to introduce more of the the robot stuff, alien stuff, it's kind of basically a bit more generic, less on the dialogue, more on the action, and kind of the tone does take a little shift. It becomes more. For me, I just couldn't take it seriously because it just I just didn't really know what the whole kind of thing was. The purpose of this, and it could have worked. And it worked fairly. It wasn't bad. As I say, it was fine. It just wasn't really good, and it wasn't something that was worth going in that direction. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. It would have been, as I say, stronger as it had kept up. Just the nature and everything of the first hour or so, just a little under an hour, because I think it was just a bit stupid at times, a bit more generic, and the first bits where the blanks come into it, it's still, it is a good film, and it doesn't have too many flaws, but as the film goes on and on, it kind of just is them kind of getting chased, then you got the kind of big reveal towards the end of the film. In this kind of big sequence, with the aliens and everything, it just, for me, that bit was just quite disappointing, a bit underwhelming, and just didn't really work fully for me, them bits, just when the voice, things talking to them, and then it just kind of cuts off as well. It is a bit, for me, it's just too over the top for this film, too dumb, I would say, at times, it's just a bit, I couldn't really take it seriously, and that's fine if it was more funny, because really what as well disappears is the really witty lines and the kind of literally laugh out loud stuff that was happening. I never really got this after definitely the hour mark. It was there was some laughs here and there, and you got some really good action at times. It's well put together. Other times not so much. And the kind of use of cameras and the very quick movements and everything, and the editing. At times, actually, I don't really like this type of action. It's kind of prevalent a bit in Kingsman, and just many, many films now. This is kind of is like that as well. But there's some moments where it is really good action, and it's quite thrilling. At the same time, quite funny as well. The toilet scene. That was really the first scene with the blanks come into it. That was the one I really liked. But basically, some of the action scenes aren't. They aren't that good for me, and they are a bit more. Just generic and everything like that. So that's what I'll say. And basically as well, there is some tonal shifts as well, and the bit in the nightclub and everything just doesn't work too well for me. But really, it doesn't bring the film down massively. It just doesn't. It isn't a very good film for me overall. It would have been if it had kept up with the first hour. But just the whole direction it took. It could have been done a lot better, and basically it did. It did get worse, the film, definitely, and you've got a pretty, you could say, epic ending, but really, just the whole final act, the last third maybe of the film, just isn't on par with the rest of the film, and kind of, it isn't that compelling for me. I never bought into any of this whole alien stuff, and yes, you've got some good scenes here and there, some thrilling stuff, and you have still got some good comedy at times, and the bit in the car, where they're driving off. I'm not going to ruin it, but from something towards the end of the film was really good. The visuals were good, and yeah, basically I would praise the visuals as well. Throughout the film, I think the the light and everything is actually really good. It looks quite stunning at times actually. The use of colours, yes, it's a bit maybe a bit too much at times towards the end, but it is actually really good. And yeah, I think the way it kind of wraps up is okay. It kind of left it open for a sequel, you could say as well. Just the way it ends. But yeah, basically a good film overall. I would have to give it a 75%. I think it's not it's not a very good film overall for me, and definitely the worst. I'll say and this is obviously kind of spoilers for my Baby Driver review, but it is by far the worst Edgar Wright film for me, and just because his standards are so high for me, really. Anyone else, if it was just an average director, filmmaker, and they made this film, I wouldn't be saying this, but really it is disappointing still. After rewatching it a couple of times, it has grown on me. Definitely since my first watch in particular. But yeah, I can kind of say my exact thoughts now. It is a good film, and I don't think anything more of it overall, because it does get let down in the last third, as I say, and it just does become a bit stupid for me. And Hot Fuzz and kind of Shaun of the Dead are all the ones as well that they do go all out at the end, but it works perfectly, and it culminates masterfully in both films, and as well, you've still got so much great humour within that, and the way that the script comes together as well. All the links happen here. The little things that are littered throughout, they all come together in the end. This one doesn't really follow through with that, you could say as well. It's a shame, but it's kind of more just all out action without any the balance really of the script, the dialogue, and I think the great dialogue with the action and the kind of moments. There was a couple of frustrating plot moments, for me, that just a bit frustrating, a bit was expected really, from this. But yeah, basically, good film. Would definitely recommend it. For me, it's personally, I know loads of people, of course, love this film. Some say it's the best Edgar Wright film. For me, it's not. By miles, it's definitely the worst. But I still like the film, and up until the hour mark, I really liked the film, and could definitely call it a really good film at that point. But yes, overall, throughout the acting is a bit inconsistent, but mainly because of the characters. Eddie Marsan's character, of Pete, kind of his last kind of lines in the film are a bit stupid as well, and Paddy Considine kind of takes a back seat more as well. He doesn't have as much to do as he did in the first hour. Martin Freeman, I didn't quite like what they'd done with his character actually. Rosamund Pike was good throughout. Simon Pegg got better, and Nick Frost kind of stayed. He had two different kind of you could say characters split in different half. The two halves of the film. And I wouldn't say he dipped really, and I wouldn't say he got better. He's consistently really good throughout actually what he's trying to do. What he was given, his character of Andy, and I liked the warmth of this film. I loved the friendship at the beginning of it all. The kind of what it was doing was nostalgia, and yes, it had some had some flaws here and there. It was nothing great. It was never anything great for me from the start. And Simon Pegg did go a bit over the top at times, certainly in the first bits, but basically it does have a good script overall. Very good script, as I say, in the first hour. Everything's really good here, but just it did take a dip, and a bit of a generic, kind of silly final act that didn't, it just didn't deliver really, didn't satisfy me really. And it's 75% is definitely a good score from me. It's a good film, and I definitely didn't feel as annoyed at the last act as much as I have done on the past viewings. Certainly my first viewing, I was just like, is this Edgar Wright? But yeah, basically it is a good film, and I'm not hating on the film. I do like the film. I did really like it up until a point, but yeah, I just think it's definitely the weakest of Edgar Wright. And it is a disappointing end to the Cornetto trilogy for me. I have to say that. I have to be honest. Compared to these other two films. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, because it's a very it's a bit divisive, but mainly it is loved. 7 on IMDb is not anywhere close to what his other ones are. But you know, it's a lot of strong fan base. So it'd be interesting to see. And I like the film, and I'd recommend it. But yeah, a bit disappointing overall compared to his other filmography. And you know, it does take a turn, but not, it doesn't become bad. It just it just doesn't quite live up to the previous parts, the previous acts in the film. And yeah, I did enjoy it. And yeah, thanks for watching my review. And Baby Driver could be, definitely October. I would say I'm going to be reviewing that. Rewatching it. I've seen it. Yes, once at the cinema and once on Blu-ray, I believe, which is 4K. And yeah, I can't wait to rewatch that. So thanks for watching my review of Edgar Wright's The World's End.